welcome to Listening Librarians. I'm Katie, and this is Jennifer.
Hi.
And we are here to talk about some audiobooks that we recently listened to and enjoyed that fit our monthly theme. And this month, our theme is National Hispanic Heritage Month because that runs from mid-September to mid-October. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited about this month because there's just so many wonderful books to choose from.
Hard to pick.
Right. Well, let me tell you, actually, the first book I was going to talk about because you recommended it to me, and that is Cemetery Boys.
Oh, yes.
By Latinx author Aiden Thomas. So that book came out in 2020. Mm-hmm. It's about 14 hours, which when I looked that up, it really surprised me because it just goes so quickly. Mm-hmm. It's narrated by Avi Roque, and he hasn't done a lot, but they are fantastic as a narrator. So our main character is Yadriel. He comes from this big, magical Latinx family. But unfortunately, as the book starts, they've learned that his cousin has tragically been murdered. And so then on top of that, Yadriel is trans, and there are some folks in his family, particularly his dad, that are kind of having a hard time accepting his gender. So that plays into the storyline as well. Well, to prove himself a true brujo, Yadriel, along with his cousin / best friend, Maritza, they decide to raise the ghost of his cousin and kind of figure out what happened and then send his cousin on to the afterlife. So this is something that his family is able to do. But things don't go quite as planned. And he accidentally gets the wrong ghost. So he raises the recently deceased high school bad boy who also happens to be handsome, Julian Diaz. And Julian does not want to be set free into the afterlife. He wants to, tie some loose ends, and he wants some justice for what happened. And so it's just kind of like a fun adventure. And the more Yadriel and Julian spend with each other, the more Yadriel kind of doesn't want to let him go. So it's this beautiful mix of mystery and magic, and there are like some truly heartwarming scenes.
Yeah.
It made my heart happy, especially when Yadriel kind of comes to the realization that he doesn't have to get anyone's permission to be himself, which I thought was a beautiful theme for the story. It was a 5 out of 5 stars for me.
Yeah, and it's really good as we're heading into spooky season too, because
I thought that.
The whole magic system and the fact that so much of this is taking place in the cemetery, and there's some, kind of spooky elements to the magic. So it's a good read just before Halloween too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that. Well, what did you read for this month?
I had a couple of brand new books, and we're just going to say they're by the Isabels, because one author is Isabel Ibanez, and the other one is Isabel Canas. So I will start with my spooky one first, and that is The Hacienda by Isabel Canas. And it's like historical / gothic fiction. It features Beatriz, who is the daughter of a general who was executed in the Mexican War of Independence. And she has become the second wife to Rodolfo, who owns the Hacienda San Isidro. This is something where, she's married for security because, being the daughter of a discredited general, she's not really going to be socially viable on the marriage market. So she does this to have security for herself. And, she's coming in as a second wife. She's younger. Her sister-in-law, Juana, is not very welcoming. She's been the mistress of the place for a while, so she's not really sure she wants this young woman in here. And Rodolfo is not around a lot, but while Beatriz is there, she starts hearing voices, seeing visions, and she isn't sure, is this the dead first wife? Is this a ghost? What's going on here? Then we have this other main character by name of Andres, and he is a young priest / witch.
Interesting combo.
Yes, exactly. He had grown up on the estate. He, now is an ordained priest in the village and still has these ties, but he's trying to stay a little bit separate because there's some shady history there that doesn't come out right away. But he tries to help Beatriz to end the haunting. This is just kind of a wild ride. It's described as kind of a cross between the classic novel Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier and Mexican Gothic.
Okay.
So it's very unsettling, spooky. When you're alone in the house and you hear a voice calling to you, Beatriz, Beatriz, just kind of taunting you. And then all this other weird stuff starts happening. Yeah, kind of spooky, but really interesting. Really an interesting ride. It's read by Victoria Villarreal and Leo Sorio, both very good narrators, and it's about 11 hours long. Definitely one, if you want to kind of get those chills down your spine for Halloween, I would recommend. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to keep going on the spooky theme. We didn't plan this, but it's working out.
Sure.
And I'm going to talk about actually the audiobook I just read, which is Burn Down, Rise Up. It is a brand new 2022 novel. It's by Afro-Latinx author Vincent Tirado. And it's narrated by Julianne Irons. It's about 9 hours, so not too long. So it takes place in the Bronx, modern day, and the Bronx has recently been plagued by this string of disappearances. And our main character is Raquel, and she kind of just wants to put her blinders on. She's going to high school, and she just kind of, she makes a joke that the police only seem to care when it's the white kids that go missing, which is kind of sad. So there's some kind of social commentary throughout the book as well. But her blinders come off when her childhood friend, is named Charlize, and Charlize's cousin Cisco goes missing, and so they kind of like hook up because they find out that Cisco went to get medical help right before his disappearance, and Raquel, our main character's mom, is a nurse, and now Raquel's mom is really sick. So there's this weird tie-in. So where is Francisco, and did he get Raquel's mom sick? At one point, she ends up having to be quarantined in the hospital. Well, they do their digging. They kind of team up to investigate all of Cisco's last movements, and they find out that he participated in this urban legend internet challenge called the Echo Game, and this is where it gets very Stranger Things-y, because part of the Echo Game, it seems to trap people in this sinister underground world that is like a terrible echo of things that have happened in the past. And then you find out that, in the Bronx in like the 70s and 80s, there were a lot of slumlords who were not cleaning up the apartments or setting them on fire just to get the money. And there's a lot of mold, and this illness that Raquel's mom has seems to be mold based. And so, which again, the Stranger Things vibe, if you've seen the show, there's a lot of, like the mold floating down from the sky and everything. So obviously I don't want to give away any spoilers, but this is just kind of a really unique supernatural thriller. And I will say, be prepared for a little bit of like blood and gore though. So maybe not for the most faint of heart, but it was a really good story. And I just enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I heard something about that, but somehow it didn't get on my list. So now it might be.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, my second one, we're actually going to move to fantasy and sort of historical, but sort of not. This one is called Together We Burn. It's by Isabel Ibanez. And in this one, the country that we're talking about is a place called Hispalia. And it's kind of based on medieval Spain.
Okay.
But with dragons. So, we have as a main character Zarela, who is 18. She's a flamenco dancer, and she's the daughter of this great flamenco dancer, as well as probably the most famous dragonador in the country. Yeah, instead of matadors, we have dragonadors. So
sounds way more dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah. So, the year before she turned 18, there was a disaster with a dragon in the ring, and her mother ended up dead. Now that she's 18, she's the one out there dancing, and there's this big event, and her father wins his bout with the dragon, but next thing you know, all of the dragons in the arena, they've got stables like for the dragons, all of them escape. Chaos ensues. And her father gets injured very, very badly. I mean, to the point where he's not going to be able to probably walk unassisted. He's certainly not going to be able to fight anymore. And this arena is like their property. They own it. And if he can't fight, how are they going to be able to hold on to their property, hold on to their wealth? So here she is, she's 18, and she's in the position of having to try and save her family legacy. She gets no help from the Dragon Guild, which are, it's kind of like a board of directors of all the arenas in the country. And so she decides she's going to become the next Dragonador. She's going to replace the family's dragons. She's going to rebuild. She's going to take this all on. She needs help.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And the Dragon Guild's not helping. So she finds Arturo, who is a young man who's a dragon hunter and trainer/tamer. They clash right from the get-go. He doesn't want to help her. He doesn't want to have anything to do with this. But he eventually agrees to supply the dragons and to train her to be able to fight. He's got a whole backstory that gradually gets revealed over the course of the book, so I don't want to go any further than that in talking about it. But, you've got your family dynamics, because her father doesn't want her to do this.
Okay.
You've got your social dynamics. Now they're no longer the high status that they were, and she's trying to find a way to make it better. And then you've got a little romance thrown in as well, which, okay. Yeah. In this one, I'm like, probably could have done without it, but it's okay. It's okay. But it's really an interesting twist on, the whole idea of Spain's tradition of bullfighting and throw in dragons and ramp up the difficulty level.
Right.
Honestly, I'm not sure I would want there to be dragon fighting, just like I'm not that keen on bullfighting, but it's an interesting twist.
Yeah, for sure.
It's 13 hours long as an audiobook, and it's read by Ana Osorio. So it's kind of slow to get started. I mean, the whole scene where the dragons are unleashed, that goes pretty quickly. But there are slow spots through it, but gradually as this story builds and you get some of these secrets coming into it, gets really interesting and a little more tense as you get towards the end.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, a different sort of book.
Well, next month.
Yeah, next month.
Is October.
Yeah.
And even though we kind of hit spooky with some of these choices, we're going to go all in for spooky for October.
Which is kind of a challenge for me because I am not a fan generally of the horror genre.
Okay.
But I've got some lined up that I'm going to be happy to talk about.
Yes.
So
yeah.
we will definitely have some good listens for you for next month.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. And we hope we'll see you again next month on Listening Librarians.
Bye.
See ya.